me again welcome all of you here. We're very, very proud to be hosting this event. I was talking at the lunch table with British Ambassador Janet Grissom, who's on our board, about events in the Middle East, and it's certainly an exciting time to be considering all of this. But we're here today to celebrate something that has already happened, and that was the Orange Revolution in the Ukraine, and really to honor our guests who played a pivotal role in that revolution. As some of you know, IRI and IRI and other groups that are represented here today have worked in Ukraine for some time. But I will tell you, despite speculation at that time, it was the people in Ukraine that made the revolution. We're very, very proud of that. Very honored to be led by a chairman whose life in many ways exemplifies freedom, Senator John McCain, from his early days in the Navy to his time in Vietnam to his time in the Senate, including, we're very proud, as IRI's chair. I will tell you that Senator McCain was very excited when he knew we were doing this event. He has been to Ukraine before, most recently just about the time of the revolution, and as he, I think, will tell you, we felt a great deal of excitement to see what was going on out there. Senator, thank you.
Thank you. We were excited, but not so excited to go when things were tense, only after it was over. Usual congressional bravery. Yeah. I'd like to welcome you all to lunch today, and I'm very happy to be here with the latest, and perhaps one of the most graphic examples of the people's will triumphing over all odds and providing another example of what the people can do. Earlier this week, speaking before an audience at the National Defense University, President Bush said, "Before history is written in books, it's written in courage. The courage of honorable soldiers, the courage of oppressed peoples, the courage of free nations in difficult tasks. Our generation is fortunate to live in a time of courage, and we are proud to serve in freedom's cause." No one exemplifies that more than our guests from Ukraine with us today. Late last year, as we watched the events unfolding, the Orange Revolution, with a mixture of joy and inspiration, but also pride. It wasn't pride in our own accomplishment because the Ukrainian people made the Orange Revolution. Rather, it was a pride in a cause we shared with demonstrators in the streets of Kiev and throughout the country. The same pride we felt when we saw the Rose Revolution people surrounding the Seimas in Vilnius, the marching in Wenceslas Square in Prague, the same pride that we felt when millions of Iraqis liberated by a coalition that included Ukrainian, American, and British soldiers braved terrorism to vote in their first free election. The triumph of freedom and democracy, regardless of where it takes place, is something in which we can all take pride. I've been fortunate to serve as IRI's chairman and part of the Ned family for a long time, and it's an inspiring effort. The best part of the job is the people you meet from all over the world who are working to achieve these same ideals. You get to know them, you get to support them, but most importantly, you learn from them and you are humbled. And I am humbled by their courage. Foreign Minister Borys Tarasiuk is such a person. His service to the people of Ukraine spanned over a decade. Shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union, he served in the Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was Ukraine's ambassador to Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. He has contributed greatly to Ukraine's relationship with NATO and the EU through his work as Ukraine's representative to these organizations. His Excellency also served as a member of the Ukrainian Parliament as a leader in Our Ukraine. Finally, he provided invaluable assistance and support to Viktor Yushchenko during a very long and difficult campaign. I could spend a great deal of time extolling what happened and the leadership of our guests today, but I think it would be much more appropriate for you to hear from him and I am very proud and happy to introduce the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, our very dear friend and comrade, who we had the chance of meeting on several times before, Borys Tarasiuk.
Thank you, Senator, for your kind words addressed to my nation, of which I am proud of, addressed to the Ukrainian people, addressed to our leader, Viktor Yushchenko, who after the months of a very tough campaign has received the support of Ukrainian people and thus became a democratically elected president of Ukraine. Dear friends, I have, before I will make my presentation, I have 4 announcements to make. First announcement, we did it. Second announcement, I brought the words of gratitude to you and best regards from my president of all Ukrainians, Viktor Yushchenko, whom I accompanied during his visit to Germany yesterday. Announcement number 3. I have a pleasure, Senator, to convey to you a personal letter of President Viktor Yushchenko, in which he accepted your kind invitation on behalf of the board of the Institute to speak before the Institute in the margin of his visit to the United States, and in which he is expressing his gratitude to you personally for your devotion to democracy in Ukraine. Announcement. I would like to present this diploma from the Foreign Ministry of Ukraine to the International Republican Institute for the devotion and the contribution into the development of civil society and democracy in Ukraine. Dear friends, I'm really happy to be here today with you. I know almost all of you for already years and more than a decade, and believe me, this reception, this meeting is the real meeting between Ukrainian and American friends. I would like to assure you that I will bring this feeling for this meeting and your support and solidarity to my president, to Ukrainian people. What had happened in Ukraine during the months of the longest possible presidential campaign in Ukraine? So we were witnessing the resistance on the part of the government against its own people. And I am deeply moved and proud to announce that this resistance ended up with the victory of Ukrainian people, not of the discredited government. Neither corrupted politicians, nor influential tycoons, nor insidious political mercenaries from abroad no criminal circles have managed to kneel and silence Ukrainian people. The everlasting wisdom that Abraham Lincoln has put once forth proves itself yet again. You can fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the times. So that's major lessons which prove to be right and correct in Ukraine's case. The lessons of Ukraine's Orange Revolution I would put in the following way. A government may seem eternal and invisible, but it is doomed to turn into a colossus on clay legs if it does not rest on justice. Many politicians foreshadowed that the year 2004 would be a turning point for my country. However, few could predict that it would manifest itself as such a compelling triumph of justice. Some consider the Orange Revolution as a Ukrainian political miracle. Being insider and participant of all this miracle, I would like to briefly comment on what was this revolution about and how the new authorities in Ukraine are trying to meet the expectations of the people. The new government inherited difficult legacy. Such notions as stability and democracy had been opposed to each other for a long time in Ukraine. The Orange Revolution has explicitly proved that managed democracy, quote unquote, is not a choice of Ukrainians. I'm convinced that the way to stability, welfare, and safety of the citizens lies only through real democracy and introduction of universally recognized democratic values into the daily life of the people. The priority of the person over the state, the supremacy of the law, freedom of mass media, honesty and professionalism of the new government team are at the cornerstone of our internal policy. We have the political will to make these changes and to prove to our own people, who are our masters, that we can meet their expectations. Therefore, we have the moral obligation to meet those expectations. Honesty is the best policy. This is saying to its best to demonstrate a new norm of life in Ukraine, which is also firmly taking root in the minds of all Ukrainian politicians. The government is striving to create an environment where our sufficient resources start to generate tangible benefits for the ordinary people. The world will be amazed to look at a different Ukraine, strong, sound, rich, and truly democratic. There is still a lot to be done, and we are aware of our responsibility. Winding up this part of the statement, I wish to point out but one thing. Orange Revolution is one of those historical moments that instilled the nation with the creative energies for centuries. I believe the victory is a milestone not only for Ukraine, but for the whole democratic world. For two immeasurable effect, Ukrainian experiments bears on other post-Soviet nations. For two profound impression has invoked the revolution in the minds both of its supporters and antagonists. Now it became fashionable to seek for Ukrainian traits in any revolution today. Dear friend, developments in Ukraine reveal not only the intensity of the human aspiration for freedom, they also exposed how some people could cynically resort to indiscriminate tools to suppress this aspiration. while America was closely watching the revolution with astonishment and admiration, Ukrainian government concocted a myth that revolution was brought from American shores. Absurd as this myth may look, it nevertheless insinuated into some minds. Therefore, I would like to share with you some of my observations. Modern democracy indeed traces its roots to the United States. However, to say that George Washington, Thomas Jefferson are fathers of the Orange Revolution would be a slight exaggeration. It is taken for granted that the United States, being global player and democratic leader, are important for any democracy in the world. However, this does not give the slightest ground to think that developments in Ukraine have been masterminded by Washington. What was the United States for Ukrainian opposition, for Ukrainian people? It was a friend giving hope that the democratic world would not turn a blind eye if undemocratic forces were hovering. It was a friend from whom we respected and feelings of solidarity and support. American idealists like Senator McCain helped the world to keep Ukrainian elections in close focus, while American pragmatics like Richard Lugar became immediate participants of the election process. They were not silent when the government attempted to rig the elections, and they did not make any concessions behind Ukrainian people's back. As Ukrainian revolution was unfolding, the United States took a posture innate to world democratic leader. So for this, and not for an imaginary financing the revolution, quote unquote, I wish to extend our appreciation to all the American politicians, to the American people. I'm exceedingly thankful to every senator and congressman who, despite difficulties of American election year, have found time and opportunity to visit Ukraine with the noble missions. I'm thankful to all who have taken the fate of my country to their hearts and raised their voice against injustice sweeping the nation that is 1,000 miles away from your land. I'm thankful to the International Republic Institute and its chairman, Senator John McCain, for his consistent and uncompromising fight for democracy the world over, and including helping Ukrainian people to win the victory. What are the United States for Ukraine now? We want to perceive it our strategic partner. Democracy, justice, and faith are uniting Ukrainians and Americans. We share the same values: global promotion of democracy, fight against terrorism, strengthening of European and transatlantic security. We accurately have no interests that are conflicting. Our views on the future of Europe are converging. Our economic relations could be harmoniously intertwined. Therefore, even if ideological issues were put aside, I can still see arguments only in favor of resurrection and elevation of our relations to the real strategic partnership. No arguments against this idea is in sight. I see the future of our relations as partnership for democracy. This is not an alliance against any third party. This is the alliance for promotion of high human values that has become victorious for Ukraine in December 2004. This should be the ideology to underline our relations. As to its mechanisms, it is obvious that we have to resuscitate a viable political dialogue on the highest political level. And for this, we are relying great expectations on the forthcoming visit of President Yushchenko to the United States, which will take place less than a month from now. I see the bright perspectives in our parliament-to-parliament cooperation. As being still a member of Ukrainian parliament for just a couple of days, and as a person who has spent much of my time in the United States, I'm aware that crucial role that legislative bodies are going to play in our nations. The American policy resides in the White House, but it is born on the Capitol Hill. Therefore, it is twice as much pleasant for me that the U.S. Congress has turned into a driving force of the Ukrainian-American partnership. The most encouraging words in support of democracy were emanated from the Congress. The Congress sent unequivocal warning messages to those who wanted to subvert the democracy. Here in the Congress, we have the most enthusiastic and influential friends of Ukraine, especially when it is high time to make steps to each other. In this regard, I would like to say that a considerable role has to be played by the intellectual groups and communities of both nations. And I hope that the forum, the appropriate forum of intellectuals on both Ukraine and the United States will work soon. And in this regard, I see a special role that IRI could play in providing the resources for revitalization of this forum. Today I had quite a number of meetings in Congress and in the Commerce Department. And I would like to repeat here what I said during these meetings. Ukraine is ready to do whatever it can to remove the burden of the past from the shoulders of our partnership with the United States. Ukrainian government works hard to ensure that every investor could feel confident in Ukraine. Ukrainian parliament takes up the adoption of intellectual property protection legislation as the highest priority. In the whole, it is high time to adopt totally new overarching agenda for relations between Ukraine and the United States that would encompass substantial short and long-term purposes. I'm visiting Washington here to declare this aspiration of my nation, of our government, of national confidence, and share the views how to bring it to the light. I believe that our ideas find response and support. And in a month, when the President of Ukraine comes to Washington, these ideas would be blessed on the highest political level. Dear friends, it is with satisfaction that I observe increasing number of politicians in Washington who are supporting the graduation of Ukraine from Jackson-Vanik Amendment, establishment of normal trade regime relations, and accession to the WTO. I think that the contribution Chairman of IRI, Senator McCain, made, as well as his fellow senators and congressmen, will bring a positive result, hopefully, by the visit of President Yushchenko to Washington. Normal trade relations are equally indispensable part of partnership as normal political relations. If you wish, our purpose is to start with permanent normal trade relations and end up with permanent splendid trade relations. Beginning from 1999, when Viktor Yushchenko was the Prime Minister, Ukrainian economy continues to lead in the economic development on the post-Soviet area. Last year, the economic growth surged 12.5%. Market economy is the natural environment for Ukrainians with their inherent acumen and entrepreneurial skills. Not much time should elapse before Ukraine turns into a natural environment for foreign investors. Paradoxically, as may be, our major economic problems was unattractable political image. The growing economy failed to attract investors, for oligarchy and quasi-democracy sounded for them as a diagnosis rather than national feature. Now the times have changed, and I'm glad to see many investors make up for what they have been precluded to achieve. I believe that American companies will be among them. Geopolitical considerations, important as they are, will never eclipse economic dimensions, for it will be the main yardstick to measure the success of Ukrainian experiment, quote unquote. The spirit of new Ukrainian government is high and obvious, to convert political miracle into economic miracle. In the modern world, the success of the nation is measured not in ideological slogans, but macroeconomic indexes. Therefore, whoever wishes success to Ukrainian democracy should think in economic terms. The first question that comes to my mind in this regard is the accession of Ukraine to WTO. And we hope that together Ukraine and the United States can make this hope a real one by the end of this year, the year 2005. If our partners in Congress could succeed in getting upper hand over skeptics and support both the resumption of normal trade relations between our nations and access of Ukraine to the WTO, that could be a positive and righteous step. If this could be achieved at the presidential visit to Washington, it would be a splendid political gesture. Dear friends, speaking about precious time, I would like to briefly reflect on yet another aspect of Ukrainian-American relationship. I mean, historical one. Those closely watching the relations between Ukraine and the United States can confirm that we have already heard the abundant rhetoric on partnership. That was 10 years ago, when independent Ukraine voluntarily renounced its nuclear arsenal, the third largest in the world, and was celebrated in the United States for this step. What happened next was abysmal disappointment both for the United States and democratic pro-European forces in Ukraine. In the 90s, we fumbled with many opportunities, but that lesson did not pass unnoticed. The Ukrainian government believes that in the modern politics, the main virtue is not simply adroitness in saying that you are expected to say, but honesty and consistency. For instance, we do not keep in secret the fact that Ukraine is going to withdraw its troops from Iraq this year. This is the demand of Ukrainian people. This is the promise of the Ukrainian president to his people. However, there are many aspects that we are constantly keeping in focus, and I would like to assure you that by withdrawing Iraq militarily, Ukraine will remain in Iraq, and you will have Ukraine as your reliable, consistent partner. Secondly, Ukraine remains the U.S. partner in the global war against terrorism. Being an influential nation on the post-Soviet area, Ukraine consistently supports the U.S. efforts to prevent proliferation of nuclear, chemical, bacteriological, and other types of the weapons of mass destruction. I address these words not only to the United States administration, but also to the Senator Lugar, whom I met today, and who made this issue the cause of his life. Thirdly, we shall not take any step that might let down our brothers in arms in Iraq. The United States and Poland, that are Ukraine's most consistent Western partners, rely on coherency of Ukrainian troops' withdrawal. We shall do our best to eliminate any circumventing consequences of such withdrawal. Dear friends, recently speaking in Brussels, President George Bush called the European Revolution of 1989 victories of conscience. 15 years have passed since the European democratic breakthrough. Europe has turned less romantic, more pragmatic, and I would say cold. Europe came to believe that the volcano of great transformations finally extinguished. Ukraine has disproved this illusion. The era of changes will not finish unless there is at least one nation whose aspirations for freedom and democracy are yet to be realized. Ukrainian victory of conscience is even more valuable since firstly, it has been unexpected, and secondly, non-violent and peaceful. I strongly believe that it has enriched Europe and the world, and it would be just if Europe would recognize this victory by opening for my country the door to the European Union. I am pleased that in the United States we find increasingly more supporters of European and Euro-Atlantic choice of Ukraine than in Europe. Realizing that our path to the European house is going to be long and strenuous, we gladly enjoy the support of such a unique ally as the United States, and such prominent figures of American establishment as Senators McCain, Lugar, Levin, the Senate Majority Leader Frist, Representatives Kai, Lantos, Kaptur, Levin, Wexler, and many, many others. These statesmen were the first stars to appear on the horizon of new Ukrainian-American relations. I am sure that in a short while our partnership will resemble the August night sky with myriads of stars, large and small. Just a couple of months ago, Ukrainian-American partnership was developing under the influence of so-called fatigue from Ukraine perception. Now it has been supplanted by the Ukrainian enthusiasm. I personally know quite many politicians and scientists and diplomats who are trying to predict when this enthusiasm wears thin. Bearing in mind the experience of last year, when prophecies of political Cassandras failed to come true, I would put no trust into their new predictions. I believe that the Ukrainian enthusiasm will not vanish. It will be a source of inspiration and strength to build what Ukraine has long been striving for, stable, powerful, and forward-looking strategic partnership with the United States. In the old times, Ukrainians had a tradition to build a new house together with the whole community. I imagine our partnership as such a house. For it to be solid, we shall need each pair of hands, both Ukrainian and American. We shall need your political influence, experience, and moral strength. I thank you for all this, dear friends, and let this new house stand forever. Thank you very much.
inspired all of us last year, and your words today inspire us to go forth and to help others. We want to thank you very much for coming here today. I want to thank all of our guests, particularly our guests from overseas, from the ambassadors from the Czech Republic.